We are counting down the 10 most controversial pop songs that radio stations, governments, and watchdogs tried to silence in the 1970s. From taboo-shattering lyrics about sexuality and gender to bold anthems that challenged war and authority, each track broke the rules, sparked outrage, and in many cases climbed the charts because of the bans. Which songs were considered too dangerous for the airwaves, and what stories pushed them over the edge? Let's kick off the countdown with number 10. Ray Davies found himself in the middle of a bureaucratic nightmare when the BBC refused to play the Kinks' new single, Lola. The problem was not the song's now famous tale of a late-night encounter with a transgender woman in a London club. It was the word Coca-Cola. Then the BBC's strict no-product placement rule meant the track was pulled from the airwaves unless the lyric changed. Davies, determined not to lose momentum, flew 6,000 miles from New York to London mid-tour just to re-record 2 words. Swapping Coca-Cola for Cherry Cola turned a corporate headache into pop legend, but the gender-bending storyline still rattled conservative listeners, sparking calls for a full ban on both sides of the Atlantic. None of it stopped Lola from reaching number 2 in the United Kingdom and number 9 in the United States. In the end, the controversy only made it more irresistible. Lou Reed slipped taboo subjects onto mainstream radio with Walk on the Wild Side. The song's breezy groove and catchy chorus-mask lyrics about transgender icons, Holly Woodlawn and Candy Darling, both fixtures of Andy Warhol's factory. Now, Reed didn't stop at gender. He dropped lines about oral sex and sex work, sneaking them past distracted programmers. It took months before radio stations caught on. Once they did, AM stations across the U.S. either edited or pulled the track, especially the line that goes, "And she never lost her head, even when she was giving head." Some versions swapped the words "colored girls" for a safer phrase, trying to dodge complaints. But FMDJS championed the uncut version, spinning it in defiance of censors. Underground support helped the single climb to number 16 on the Billboard Hot 100. For many, Reed's song became a rare lifeline of representation, even as censors scrambled to catch up. The Rolling Stones set off alarms with the very first line of Brown Sugar. Mick Jagger sang about slave ships and whipping. And radio programmers were thrown into a panic. Lyrics that mixed slavery, interracial sex, and drug use crossed every line for gatekeepers in 1971. Multiple stations in the United States yanked the song from playlists, labeling it too offensive for air. Despite the backlash, Brown Sugar shot straight to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Controversy only fueled demand, album sales soared, and the Stones filled stadiums across America. Decades later, the debate has not faded. In 2021, the band retired Brown Sugar from their live shows, with Mick Jagger admitting he understood why people were upset. The song's history shows how pushing racial and sexual taboos did not just spark outrage. It sold records and forced radio to confront where it drew the line. Donna Summer's Love to Love You Baby did not just flirt with controversy. It dove in head first. The original 17-minute version featured around 22 simulated orgasms, a number that sent censors into a frenzy. BBC Radio declared the track obscene and pulled it from their playlist in 1975. Across the Atlantic, conservative American stations refused to play even the edited 3-minute single, calling it too explicit for family airwaves. Interviewers grilled Summer, asking if she was alone in the studio, or if she actually touched herself while recording. She later told The Guardian that her hand was just on her knee. Despite, or maybe because of, the bans, the song became a massive disco hit. Nightclubs blasted it, launching Summer as the queen of disco and proving that what was too hot for radio was perfect for the dance floor. Loretta Lynn didn't just sing about heartbreak and honky-tonks. She took on birth control at a time when the country radio wanted nothing to do with it. The pill landed in 1975, straight from a woman who had married at 15 and raised 6 kids before turning 30. Lynn's lyrics about finally having control over her own body rattled the men who ran rural radio stations. DJs who'd spin endless songs about drinking and cheating suddenly drew the line at a woman celebrating her freedom from endless pregnancies. In towns across America, stations refused to play the track, calling it unfit for family listening. Lynn faced angry calls and letters, but she also found quiet support from women who heard their own lives in her words. Even with so many bans, The Pill still reached number 5 on the country charts and became an anthem for women's rights, showing just how powerful a band song could be. In 1967, the BBC banned A Day in the Life over a single line, Had a Smoke, which censors read as a nod to drugs. The Beatles' surreal masterpiece became a lightning rod for moral panic, but the controversy did not end there. As the 1970s brought new waves of political pressure, Vice President Spiro Agnew took aim at rock music, denouncing lyrics that, in his words, promoted drug culture and social decay. Agnew's speeches did not name the Beatles directly, but his campaign sent a chill through radio stations already wary of government scrutiny. Some programmers quietly pulled songs with even a whiff of drug reference, and A Day in the Life found itself under the microscope again. Paul McCartney insisted the lyric was innocent, but censors were not convinced. The track's reputation grew, voted by critics as the greatest Beatles song. The history of band showed how politics could reach back and try to silence art that had already changed the world. Edwin Starr's War hit American radio in the summer of 1970 with a message that could not be ignored. The chorus, "War, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing," became a rallying cry at a time when the Vietnam conflict was tearing the country apart. Conservative programmers, especially in military-heavy regions, bristled at the song's blunt protest and quietly dropped it from their playlists, calling it unpatriotic. But the controversy only fueled its momentum. Underground FM stations and soul radio embraced the track and record buyers lined up. Within weeks, War shot to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, holding the top spot for 3 weeks and selling over 1 million copies. Motown had never seen a protest song move this fast. The very attempt to silence Starr's message turned it into one of the decade's most powerful anthems, proving that even in the face of patriotic gatekeeping, the truth could still top the charts. John Lennon's Imagine arrived with a melody gentle enough for lullabies, but its lyrics rattled the foundations of power. The line, "Imagine. There's no countries and no religion," to set off alarms among church leaders and conservative broadcasters. In the United States, Christian groups organized letter-writing campaigns, urging stations to pull the song for what they called an attack on faith and family values. On the other side of the world, South Africa's apartheid government banned Imagine outright, calling it dangerous propaganda. Official broadcasts were forbidden. But bootleg cassettes circulated, spreading Lennon's vision in defiance of state censors. Ironically, the same song that once terrified authorities became a global anthem for peace. It is now played at memorials and public vigils everywhere. The harder officials tried to silence Imagine, the more deeply it took root, proof that ideas can't be erased by turning off the radio. The Sex Pistols unleashed God Save the Queen in May 1977, right as Britain prepared for the Queen's Silver Jubilee, with snarling vocals calling the monarch not a human being and sneering at the promise of no future. The song took dead aim at the heart of British tradition. The BBC refused to play it, labeling the track an insult to national dignity. Major retailers like Woolworths and W.H. Smith pulled the single from their shelves, and Parliament erupted in outrage. Censored records show heated debates about the band's threat to public order. Police trailed the group's Thames River stunt and stopped their boat mid-performance. Despite or because of this wall of censorship, God Save the Queen sold so many copies it topped the independent charts, with many still claiming it outsold every other single in the country that week. Every ban, boycott, and headline only fueled the Sex Pistols' rise, turning a band anthem into the ultimate punk legend. Randy Newman's Short People hit the airwaves in 1977, armed with a biting sense of humor that most listeners missed entirely. The song's real target wasn't height. It was prejudice itself, using absurd lyrics to mock the logic of bigotry. But satire didn't translate for everyone, and the song became widely misunderstood. Stations across the country fielded angry calls and letters from listeners who thought Newman was serious. Some regional affiliates pulled the song from rotation, and a Maryland lawmaker even tried to make it illegal to play on the radio. Newman was stunned, later saying he never expected people to take it literally. Despite the uproar, Short People soared to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. The backlash only made it more famous, proving once again that misunderstanding an artist's intent can turn a novelty into a national talking point, and that every band is a free advertisement. Across all 10 songs, one pattern stands out. Attempts to silence controversial music only amplify its reach. Censorship makes art more powerful, not less. These banned tracks prove that challenging ideas can't be erased. They become the soundtrack of cultural change. Thanks for watching. What do you think censorship achieves?